Hello and welcome back to another out of spec detailing video. Next to me here we have a brand new 2023 Tesla Model Y Performance, and this is coming in for a full new car prep. So this car has right around 1,100 miles on it, but we're going to get this thing absolutely dialed in and most importantly protected. So going through everything from, of course, washing it, we're going to do a full paint correction, polish, a 5-year warranted ceramic coating on the paint. We're also going to coat all of this black plastic trim around here, as well as the wheels, and every little detail we're going to go through. We're going to try and put on video so you guys can see what really goes into a new car prep detail. Welcome back, and let's jump into it. Before we jump into our 4-day project we're going to have here on this Model Y Performance, let's kind of get a little bit of an idea how the car came in. So like I said, has about 1,100 miles on it. You can see down here, this has definitely been through the latest winter storm we've had. We had our first big snowstorm here in Colorado, and man, oh man, the roads have been quite nasty. But my customer just picked this up a couple of weeks ago, already has 1,100 miles on it, and has been enjoying it really good. So I'm sure all of you are asking, what's the color on this? Of course you can see it's red. This is actually not the ultra red, but the tricolor multi-coat red. Still a $2,000 option on the Model Y, and this of course being the performance variant here. Kind of crazy that they're still charging so much for this color, but I gotta tell you guys, this is actually one of my favorite colors to work on in the Tesla realm. Ultra red is really cool. I do prefer it over this, but man, once you get this paint absolutely dialed in, you pull it outside into the sunshine, it absolutely glows. It is such a sweet color. So we're gonna walk through basically the whole process I go through on new car vehicle preps. In all honesty, this is really the bread and butter of my business. This is what I do the most of. So bring pretty much a brand new car in, do a paint correction on them, get it polished, get the paint perfect before we lock everything in with a 5-year warranted ceramic coating from Geon. And this is a pro level only coating. We'll get into that later, talk a little bit about the install, some intricacies in there, but it is Geon Infinite Base Type 1, a pro level only coating if you guys are curious. We're also, of course, going to be taking the wheels off, getting them ceramic coated. These Uber turbines can be very challenging to not only keep clean, but yeah, they will get some brake dust, not as much with an EV, but they definitely do still get quite a bit of dirt and grime on them. And getting inside the barrels, man, that can be tricky. We'll also be cleaning up the suspension areas like this under here. You can see just 1,100 miles here in Colorado, how nasty things can get. So we want to take the wheels off, clean all of that area, put a little bit of protection. We'll talk all about that and more later on in the video. And then kind of lastly, one of the biggest things we're going to be coating is all of this black plastic trim under here with a specialized plastic coating. Really helps with chemical resistance on there from fading, lots of UV resistance. Do want to make a quick note here. I'm just looking at the color difference here. That's quite interesting. You can see how much different shade of red this is here. Not uncommon with Teslas, of course. Now, a few things I just want to kind of look over the car. I've seen quite a few things, a little bit of scratches, so I actually have my scan grip light here. We'll definitely get this washed down. But definitely some areas, especially around the door handles, and this is not uncommon with Model Ys. You can see quite a bit of scratches. What a beautiful color this is. You can see where the customer typically closes the door here, gets a lot of fingerprints in this area and quite a few scratches. Always kind of recommend if you have something like a Model Y, Model 3, just use this to close the door. It's a lot easier on your paint. This area on the driver's side is really quite bad. Got some pretty heavy scratches here. Now we can't blame all of this on the client. I'm not exactly sure how this car was delivered. Again, it's got 1,100 miles or so on it, but I wanted to bring you guys along and really show you what goes into these new car prep details. We've definitely done a few of these, but I think it's very cool to bring in a few different types of cars. We've done them on Rivians and a few Teslas, but really get into the nuances between cars, because everybody thinks, it's pretty quick. You just, buff it quickly, slap a coating on. But these cars all really have their differences once you get into it. Some are nearly perfect and need just a light cut. This one is definitely, seems to me, going to needs a little bit more heavier cut. As I've looked around the vehicle, quite a few kind of rub marks, especially down the sides of the vehicle. You can see maybe here a few bigger scratches. Hard to pick up on camera. I can really see them in person. Yeah, right here. Can definitely see some things like that. Of course, here around the door handles, these things have gotten quite mangled in just a couple miles here. Yeah, you can really see some heavy scratches. That's really always the issue. People here kind of, come in here and try and grab this handle, and you can put scratches in here quite easily. One area I do need to definitely let my customer know about is this spoiler. I don't know if you can see this, potentially hear it, but it doesn't feel like it's totally stuck on properly. Hopefully you can hear that and maybe even see it. So I'll definitely tape this off when I do all my paint correction. Don't want to get the matte carbon here all shiny, but yeah, this doesn't seem right. So that may be a warranty item through Tesla. Again, something I see quite often. But let's quickly run through the process here. So the car is quite filthy, so we really need to do our decontamination on this thing, which is going to consist of really washing it heavily. Now, I'm not going to go through every single little detail. This would be a 5-6 hour detail, but I'm going to kind of highlight some points on it. So first off, we're going to go through a wash. We're not really going to worry about all the plastic here. We're not even going to touch the wheels, not going to worry about the wheel arches. I really just want to focus on the paint. Once I kind of get it foamed down, I'll go through my initial wash stage, kind of hand wash it and see how the paint feels. I'll rub my hand over the paint and determine, does it make sense to clay bar it? Does it not? I'm not a huge fan of clay bars. I really need to make a dedicated video on that. But typically, I really don't even clay bar new vehicles. I find that the pads pick a lot of that contamination up. I use microfiber cutting discs. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on. And then finish with foam. Never have an issue with contamination. I single use microfiber pads, so one cut stage on a car, toss them away. I don't even deal with cleaning them. But I have never had issues with trying to finish things with having a lot of contamination, unless the car is really, really bad. And mostly one of the biggest contamination issues I think about is industrial fallout. Typically that comes into the pad. I use the blowout technique, so I'm not really concerned with that. The only other issue that I typically see really, really bad on paint is tree sap and things like that. But we'll get this washed down. We'll then move it over into the detail bay over here to the right of me. We'll start the paint correction. It'll come back out here, get re-washed because of all that compound dust. That's why I don't even, bother dealing with wheels and fenders and things like that. Everything just has this white powder all over it. I'll show you all of that later on. We'll then pull the wheels off. After we wash it, clean up the suspension, get the wheels coated, it'll go back into the detail bay, get its polish, then coating on the paint, then coating on all of the trim, all the little intricate details like here in the door jambs. The car is locked right now. Clean all the door jambs out, clean the frunk out, make sure all the windows are completely dialed in, they have no haze on them, anything like that. And really, lastly, finish up with the interior. But all the little details, this is gonna be a 30, 40, potentially even longer hours into this. It's gonna be a big one. Hope you guys enjoy it. Let's jump into it.
Yeah.
Well, we've got the Model Y now back into the detail bay, all cleaned up and really ready to start paint correction. So a few things I want to touch on that I did during the wash process was, number one, I just completely foamed down the vehicle. I typically do that when a car has a lot of contamination, dirt and grime on it. In the case of this Model Y Performance here, just to kind of let it sit on there, let the soap do its job, break down all of that dirt and grime. Typically helps a lot more, especially on a vehicle that isn't already ceramic coated, has no protection on it, instead of doing a quick rinse to foam it down. So basically what we did, foam it down, rinse all the dirt off, re-foam it, went in with our 2-bucket wash, our clear water rinse, and our soap bucket. Got everything really cleaned up. Again, really avoiding areas like the grills down here, all these plastic pieces. I did just kind of flush this out. We'll really get into that later on in the video. But mostly the big thing, trying to get all the dirt off, trying to get it prepped for the paint correction. Now, I've had a little bit of time to walk around this car more. Now that it's actually clean, it doesn't have all the film on it, all of the nasty griminess. Gotta say, this thing is gonna be a little bit of work. Quite a few really deep scratches, especially in areas around the handles like I did showcase you guys before. But man, there's some really heavy rub marks on this. So let me just kind of bring you in here and can show you a little bit closer. So areas like this, we've got a pretty big scratch. There's also quite a bit of scratches that are a little bit less severe, as you can see right in here. The camera is gonna struggle picking up on the red, just so you guys know. But definitely some good rub marks here. Now looking over here, you can actually see something pretty sharp or whatever it may be scratch this. So when you can see a scratch like this that is white, you can see it comes up here like this. Typically, if you can rub your fingernail over it, and you can actually feel it, stuff like this is not gonna completely come out. Now, we could come in here, wet sand this down a little bit, round off those edges, and make this look a lot better. We'll kind of see once I get correcting on this how it's actually gonna look. But stuff like this, just so you guys know, I get asked this a lot. Hey, I've got a scratch in my car. I can see metal through it or see white typically, and you can feel it with your fingernail. It's too deep to actually get in there and remove that scratch completely. A lot of people may be like, okay, well, what the heck? Why can't you do that? Isn't that the whole point of paint correction? Well, paint being very thin like this is why I talk so much about having thick paint, consistent paint during my build quality analysis series. If you have, areas like this with really thin paint, you try and go in there, remove the scratch, you can actually burn through the paint, go through the clear coat. Now we're having to get this whole panel repainted. Not what we want to do. We want to make this look as good as possible while kind of hiding the scratch, if you will. Another area we have huge scratches. Let me set this down here actually. You can see right there, the camera is having a miserable time focusing on it. I can see it way better in person, but right in here, these scratches, I rub my finger over them, can feel all of those. So those are quite deep. We can definitely round some of these off, round the edges off it, so it's not as apparent, but some pretty heavy scratches. I'm really kind of surprised at the looks of this car. I mean, some really heavy scratches all the way down the vehicle. Can really see these in person a lot better than on camera, but pretty deep scratches. Again, we'll look up here, can see that scratch right under the light. That's a heavy, heavy scratch. Man, oh man, this thing is definitely going to be some work. Really no issues here that I'm seeing as far as getting this stuff out. I think little areas like maybe down here, we're going to have to leave some of those scratches and stuff like that back there. Maybe a slight bit of an issue, but a lot of this stuff we can get out. You can see more scratches. These are really deep right here coming into the door. Definitely something I'll be able to take out. But overall, it's not terrible, but definitely a little surprised here. And that's why every single car is not the same. That's why, I make one video detailing a new Model Y. They're all slightly different. So just keep that in mind. So next steps for me here. Now that I've kind of got a good idea on the paint of the level of scratches in here, I'm gonna start thinking in my head, okay, I need to select a compound that is a little bit aggressive. Now I'm gonna do a few different test spots on here, testing different compounds, different polishes, or a mix in between two. We're probably gonna go a little bit on the heavier cut side. And a lot of people ask me, how do you actually choose your compound and polish? Well, just for example, this shelf right here is all the different compounds and polishes that I actually use. So typically my first starting point is I'm gonna go for CarPro Ultra Cut. Heavy, 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 heavy cut, but I can kind of regulate that a little bit with not only the pressure of the machine, the speed of the machine, how much actual compound you use. I really, really like this stuff because it leaves a nice finish. It's not super heavily haze. If we're going absolutely crazy, like super heavy cut over here by Menzerna, we'll basically take out 1,000 grit sand marks. That is some legitimately heavy compound. This stuff also hazes the paint a lot. So when I come in here and start selecting, I need to not only consider getting the scratches out, but am I going to be able to easily get out the haze that I'll put into the paint with a polish. So that's always part of my calculation. So sometimes I may spend a little bit more time, go a less aggressive cut initially so that my polish is easier. Now this is very, very important on something like Tesla's non-metallic black paint where the paint's pretty soft. So going for something like Ultra Cut will just haze the crap out of the paint. Maybe I'll grab something like this that is really more of a heavy polish instead of a full compound and kind of figure it out in between. But we'll get all of that going here. Last couple of steps I'm going to do before I actually start cutting the paint, essentially our compounding stage, is I'm going to quickly go through, wipe everything down with isopropyl alcohol just to make sure we have nothing left over on the paint. No soap residue, no waxes or sealants or anything like that that may be on here, but we're just going to get all of that removed. Last couple of points I want to make before we start buffing on this bad boy is the lack of sanding marks are very, very impressive on this car. I walked around the entire vehicle with my Scan Grip light, could not find one sanding mark. I am noticing here we've got some good water stains, boom, right there. So that's pretty deep into the paint. Definitely have to go in after that area quite heavily. And then here, this may actually be bird poop or some serious water. Colorado environments, especially on naked paint, are very, very harsh on the paint. We put a lot of mag chloride down, a lot of salt brine now recently. You'll see that where the plows go through the night before, have basically strips of solution on the road. That's typically salt brine they put down. That's why the roads turn so white, very harsh on paint, not pH neutral at all. That type of stuff, so it can be very, very harsh. Sorry for coughing here. Let's get into compounding. So I've been hammering away here at this section. You guys have been watching the time lapse now, and this was where we had that really deep scratch in here. Now, I just worked on this lower section in here. Let me snag out the scan grip light and hopefully you can see. So you can still see the scratch there. Essentially what I want you guys to understand is a scratch like this, if you look at it on a microscopic level, really is like a jagged V like this. So when I talk about rounding the edges off, basically doing this to where it looks more so like a U, if you will. And this helps with the light refraction back in your eyes here. So you'll still be able to see this. I may hammer this a little bit more, but the big thing you'll notice here is a lot of that white is gone. And that's really from rounding those edges. That's how your eyes actually see this. Now this area over here, you can see some pretty hefty scratches down here below. Let me hammer out this section and you can see real time what it actually looks like before and after paint correction. So if you guys are curious here, I am using a Meguiar's microfiber pad here. This is a cutting disc, of course, and I am using CarPro Ultra Cut as the main compound. So I found this is great. It's not leaving a ton of haze, definitely a little bit. This is, of course, not going to be a single step, but you can see how many of those scratches we actually got out of here. This area is a little hammered, so I'm actually going to do just another pass here. Try and refine this ever so slightly a little bit more. It does crease over this body line and kind of swoop up here, so I'll be hitting this with my bigger Rupes, probably the 6-inch here that I'm using. But yeah, this is what we've been just kind of cranking on the whole time, and you can see that red is really starting to come out. You can see there just a little scratch right above there. Try and refine this area just slightly more, but really pumped with the results we're getting on this. And after playing a little bit of musical cars, we are on day 2 of the Model Y performance detail. So all day yesterday, I spent probably the better part of 12 hours on the full paint correction, and this red is truly starting to glow now. Now, it's really hard to see on camera the real difference, but the clarity of the paint has really come up a lot. And most importantly, we got all of the imperfections out. All of those areas like up here with having those hard water stains or bird poop, whatever it actually was, got all those removed. All the deep, heavy scratches, we got about 98% of them out. The other 2 surrounding areas that I talked to you guys about really couldn't come out without compromising the actual paint. This area looks a heck of a lot better down here, and it's going to be really hard to see, but this area, yeah, you can't even pick it up on camera, really still has some of those super hard scratches, but the paint is absolutely glowing here. I've got my scan grip on. You can see all around the door handles, things like that. Maybe a few deep scratches there that I said, okay, we need to kind of leave some paint in this area. That's always a part of detailing. You can't just get every single last scratch out, because, you know, over a certain period of time, you're gonna have to repolish these eventually, but really happy with the results from the actual paint correction stage. So next steps here, we have a lot of compound dust on this car, and this is very common. You can see all of this specks and dust in here. Hopefully you can see that there. Basically, this comes from the actual compound stage. Using the blowout method, it just creates a mess on the car. So next couple of steps, we're going to refoam it. I'm not gonna do a hand wash. Basically, I wanna get all of that compound dust out of areas like this, all the nooks and crannies. It just goes absolutely everywhere. Hopefully you can see this. Once we get this foam down, rinsed off, dried, it is then time for the wheels. Now, I would love to be able to do it in here where this dual motor Rivian R1T is, get it up on the lift, pull the wheels off. Problem is the wheel wells are so caked in dirt and grime here. I'm unfortunately just gonna have to put this on jacks and jack stands to be able to clean the wheel wells out, and then we'll get into the wheels. But let's jump into foaming this thing down in a quick rinse. And we are now ready to do wheels. So off camera, I washed the entire car down, of course, dried it, went through the door jambs, got all of the remaining water and a little bit of compound dust. Now, since then, I have actually already removed the back wheels, coated them inside and out, coated the calipers, cleaned up the suspension. You can see the mess that this actually does to the floors here at the shop. Cleaning suspension and wheels is truly a mess, but all of that dirt and grime was in these wheel wells. So next steps here, I'm gonna show you fully what goes into removing, coating, cleaning the wheels, as well as cleaning up the suspension and putting a little bit of protection on them. So next, let's take the front wheels off and get to cleaning. Wheels now off, so let's check out how the suspension and all of this is looking. Definitely not horrible, but filthy enough that we're gonna go in there and clean it while we have the opportunity to do so with the wheel off. Now the wheel over here, of course, this is why I remove wheels. You can see the face of the wheel doesn't look all that bad. Pretty easy to clean, not the end of the world. But the barrel is always the hard part. So when you're getting your wheels coated, highly recommend you opt for the wheels off service to clean all of this grime, all of this nastiness out of there. Of course, we're gonna ceramic coat everything back there, as well as the face of the wheel. And we are of course gonna clean all this up, put a little bit of protection on it. I'll show you the whole process in a quick time lapse. Well, I don't know about you guys, but these wheels look substantially better now. So all clean, ready to go. I've already got the wheel wells mostly drying right now. So while I am actually coating the wheels here, they're still gonna drip dry and not, you know, drip in the barrel. So next step, of course, we gotta get these coated. We're gonna do a little talk and coating session here on these wheels. But what I'm spraying on here right now is Geon Prep. This is something, if you guys have watched the channel before, you're gonna hear me talk about a lot. Coating prep is really, really important. So using something like Geon Prep to get any sort of waxes, sealants, any remaining grease we may have missed is really, really beneficial here to the ceramic coating. And yeah, it helps on everything. So I'll use this on wheels, on brake calipers, on plastic, on paint, whatever it may be, whatever we're trying to coat, that is going to be what we're going to use right before we actually coat it. Now, the back of these Model Y Performance wheels are very weird compared to other wheels we typically work with. So the front is, of course, a matte or satin finish paint. It's really more satin, but the back of this here is completely different textured. And I'll be honest with you, the coatings have been really tricky on these. So not only with their longevity back here, but the actual material itself, it really holds in a lot of dirt, which is why the coating helps so much. But this back area is very, very porous. And actually the barrel is a completely different finish than it is up here. The back of the faces of the wheel on the Model Y Performance, I haven't had great luck actually ceramic coating. The coating goes on weird. It doesn't really absorb into this particular finish. You can actually see here, hopefully you can see that on camera, some of these areas basically almost look like they have a light mist of paint or whatever solution they're using on here to actually make it black. You can really see in here how it's just metal underneath. So coating the back of Y Performance and 3 Performance wheels have not been great, in all honesty. But what I've found that works best back here is actually G-Technic C5 wheel armor. So I'm just kind of getting all of the remaining water here. Don't want to affect the coating at all. But typically, I've been coating a lot of wheels with either Geon Mose or Geon Infinite Base Type 1 if a said client wants to kind of upgrade their coating. But what I've done here on the Y Performance 3 Performance is use Geon C5 wheel armor on the back of this, and it seems to work a heck of a lot better than other coatings I've used. Now, I don't love this coating for painted wheels like the face of these. You know, say I was working on another vehicle like a Rivian R1T or R1S. This is all really highly finished paint on the back of the actual wheel, not here on the Teslas, which is really strange. It's really odd because even the base model 18-inch Aero wheel you'll find like on the Model 3 or 19-inch Gemini wheel is actually all painted back here. And this material, yeah, not a huge fan of this. I'm, in all honesty, not a huge fan of the Uber turbines. Super heavy. I think they look pretty cool, but yeah, this is a tricky area to clean and keep clean. So now we are actually going to jump into fully ceramic coating these. Now I'm really only going to focus on the barrel, like I said, because the back of these spokes just do not interact well at all with ceramic coating. Very hard to get off, and I really have found little to zero benefit in actually coating that area. So off camera here, I've got my C5 wheel armor, and we're going to come in here and start coating. Of course, you need to let that Geon Prep actually completely evaporate before you come in here, so you don't want it to be wet, anything like that. And I'm just going to work this product in. I like to go quite heavy on the coating, especially on the back of the wheel compared to, you know, something like the front of the wheel. This is really the area that gets so much dirt and grime. Everybody can clean the face of the wheel, but it's a lot harder to clean the actual barrels. So what I'm going to do here, once I get this actually coated here on the barrel, again, going to avoid this area. Even this little ridge in here is exposed metal, and it doesn't seem to hold the coating very well or do anything like that. I'll do the back of the rim here very quickly. Now we're gonna flip over to the front here. Boom, here we go. And we're gonna get coating the Uber turbine. So actually what I'm using on this is Geon Mohs Evo. So this is a phenomenal coating. Really, really like this stuff. It is not a wheel specific coating, but in all honesty, I've been finding this stuff to last a heck of a lot longer than, you know, the C5 wheel armor. I did a really heavy coat on this one. Just gonna come in here, make sure we get every single little area of the wheel. Of course, you will notice the center caps are missing from this. I actually coat those separately. Same Geon Mohs Evo on here. And we're just gonna give this a real thick layer on the front here. Wheels are an area that really get kind of destroyed by road salt, dirt, and grime. They're hard to clean, but having a ceramic coating on there is gonna keep them cleaner longer. It's gonna help with brake dust. Obviously, being an EV, EVs don't see a ton of brake dust unless you're using them hard on track or mountain drives, whatever it may be. It's actually quite funny. This Y Performance has, you know, about 1,200 miles or so on it. And the brakes look like they're brand new. There's still the OEM kind of glazing on them, if you will. Hasn't even looked like the brakes have been touched once. So not dealing with a ton of brake dust here, just general dirt and grime, of course, from the Colorado winters. And yeah, so these are coated. I promise you guys, these will not be glossy afterwards. So I'm gonna throw this on a time lapse. I'm gonna let this cure up probably a little bit longer than I normally would on something like paint. Just kind of harden that coating a little bit. But I'll throw you on a time lapse here. Then we'll get wiping down all of the coating. So I've done the front and the back of the wheel at the same time to really let it cure. And I promise you, this wheel is not ruined. It's not gonna be glossy forever. So we got the wheel coated over here, looking absolutely phenomenal. And here's how the suspension cleaned up. You can see it really, really turned out nice. I've already got the caliper actually coated, and I am ready to now put on the wheel. So let me just quickly talk about our protection that we used here on the plastic. You'll see we do have some areas that do have some carpet on them. Those will take a while to dry out. But basically, I cleaned them with a simple solution of Simple Green. I foamed them down, really just went in there and lightly agitated things. Things like the shock tower are a little tricky to get to, but using the different types of brushes really, really helps. So for protection, I use Geon Wet Coat. The really nice thing is it's a spray on, basically sealant is the best way to think about it. But it gets into all little nooks and crannies. You can see how clean everything actually looks in here. Right before I put the wheel on, I will go just dry up any water remaining. You can see just a little bit there, but that'll prevent some water spotting. I am, of course, using my deionized water over there. But yeah, looking super, super good here and really pumped with it. So I'm gonna get coating the other wheel, get the wheels put back on this thing, and we will finally pull it back into the bay and get polishing. Well, hopefully it's coming through on camera, but this red is absolutely popping now. So doing the full paint correction on it and really the refinement of polishing, what a difference it makes. Now polishing, of course, is completely different than compounding and the real paint correction. If you guys are more interested in how-to videos on paint correction, really in-depth talking about my thought process while I'm actually buffing on a vehicle, I've got some videos you can go check out on the Out of Spec Detailing channel. But really, this is what it's all about. Now, a lot of people think, you know, a ceramic coating, it's a brand new car, you just rinse the car off, slap a coating on it. That, as you guys have seen, could be farther from the truth. There's a ton of time and a ton of effort that goes into a brand new vehicle even to make it look this good. So let's talk a little bit about the coating. I have already, of course, polished this, and I have already went through the entire car with our initial wipe down, which is Geon prep. Very important step to do, just as I talked about with the wheels, but most importantly here is to get all the polishing oils and residue off of the paint. We do this to ensure that the ceramic coating actually physically bonds to the paint here. Now we're gonna be using this on, of course, areas like headlights, all of the satin trim around the vehicle as well. Not all of the textured black plastic down low. We're gonna coat that after we touch the paint. But we're gonna be using Geon Infinite Base Type 1. And this is a really, really cool coating. I've been using it for a little over a year now. So this is a pro level, certified only, warranted ceramic coating. This is not something DIY folks or non-certified Geon detailers can just go grab off the shelf. It's very similar in formulation to Geon Mo's Evo, but it's really a step above. It's a serial numbered coating, so every single person who gets their car detailed and done here gets a little packet. They have their warranty number on it. They register their warranty. It's about 5 years, give or take. Now, that really always comes down to how you maintain your ceramic coating, but I've been blown away with the installation of this stuff, the gloss characteristics, the self-cleaning characteristics, and really just overall performance of Geon Infinite Base Type 1. Absolutely blown away with it. Now, this is not gonna be a how-to tutorial. I'm gonna throw you guys back on the time lapse. We're gonna get this bad boy coated. I'm pumped for this because this thing is looking awesome. Now we got to turn it up to 11. Well, you guys just watched me ceramic coat this entire vehicle. Takes around 45 minutes to an hour. Very quick for you guys to actually see. Love how nicely the Geon Infinite Base Type 1 went down. Look at the paint now. That is exactly what we were going for. Crystal clear, just gives a nice sheen. Of course, it is just so deep. The camera does it zero justice. It's also weird in here with the lighting. You'll see a little pulsating from the lights. See how bright red it is here, and then it gets really dark here and here. It's really not how it looks in person. It's just this beautiful, brilliant, brilliant red. But next steps now. So we've got all the paint dialed in. So the coating needs to cure for a little bit. Obviously, this car is going to be sitting here for a little bit longer, so it's going to be fully cured by the time the customer actually picks up the car. Look at this fender right here. Looks phenomenal. So pumped with it. So other coatings we have to do, really one major one left over, and that is all of this black trim around here. So I've actually got my lift points up here. We're going to lift the car up. Just helps me get farther underneath here. So like this whole rear diffuser, for example, I'll basically coat the underneath until the rear end of the wheel there. It'll look amazing all underneath the side sill here. And with the Model Ys, you'll notice Inside even, all of this has some of that black trim on there. I'll get all of that coated now. And then lastly, as far as coating wise, it'll be this whole cowl area, all of the plastic underneath the front trunk. So I'm gonna throw you guys yet again on another time lapse, and let's get the Y in the air and get coating all of the black trim. In today's episode of How the Heck Does This Get Through Tesla Quality Control, we have a 2023 Model Y Performance. I opened up the door here on this brand new vehicle. Oh, look at this lovely paint drip. And then, yeah, amazing orange peel texture. I come over here, look at the orange peel here. Oh, another paint drip right there. Come over here, dust nibs. This is all in the actual paint. What the heck is going on? You may be asking yourself, well, this is just on the inside of the door, no big deal. Then you come to the outside of the car and see crap like this all over the car. Dust nibs everywhere. This is one of the worst painted Tesla Model Ys I've seen in a long, long time. Just coming back here, you can see some of the same issues. Texturing, oh, looks good now. Tons of contamination all over the paint. What the heck is going on, Tesla? And about 4 days later, the Model Y Performance is totally done. This was a great project, really thrilled with the results. This red is absolutely popping in here. We're of course gonna leave it in the shop right now to let the coating cure up, wait for the customer to come pick it up, but couldn't be more thrilled with the results. Interior was pretty easy. You guys saw me do a couple quick clips on this and here. Just did a light wipe down here on the interior. Still have yet to put the mats in there. I'm gonna wash them up, dry them, but be pretty darn simple. All the door jambs, spent some time cleaning all of those up. Wheels look phenomenal. Got the center caps actually ceramic coated, and of course a little bit of tire dressing on here, but the Model Y looks freaking awesome. So I hope this gave you guys a little bit of insight what actually goes into these details. Now I'm still trying to work out how this actually works as far as videos. If you guys want a little bit more of explaining things, if you just like more of the time lapses, definitely let me know down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this, give us a like and a subscribe, and we will continue to make more content. But this Model Y is absolutely glowing. Thrilled with the results after quite a few hours of hard work, to say the least. So hope you guys enjoyed this one. We'll see you in another out of spec detailing video very, very soon. Bye-bye.